So here I've got my home router and I've plugged an Ethernet cable into that. It's a wireless router, but I'm just using one of its internet ports, and I've plugged the other end of the Ethernet cable into the Raspberry Pi. I haven't connected any keyboard or mouse or TV screen or monitor to it, but the software, the SD card with the software in is already in there. I've plugged it into the power supply, and once the Ethernet cable is plugged in, then I can just turn this on. And that will start loading the software. I'm going to use my laptop, which is connected to my home network wirelessly, to be able to talk to the Raspberry Pi. Here I've just logged on to my home router, and I can see that the Raspberry Pi is connected to the Ethernet here. So I'm just going to find out the IP address that it's been assigned by the router. So I can have a look here, and so this is the IP address that it's been given, and this is the number I'm going to need to be able to dial in, which basically means to be able to make a connection to the Raspberry Pi, which is connected to the router. The other thing I need to make the connection is, because I've got a Windows PC, is I need a piece of software which will enable a connection to be made, and that software is freely available, and it's called PuTTY. The first hit that you get in Google gives you the software, so I'm just going to go to the download page here and scroll down to the bottom and get the exe file, which is this particular one here. PuTTY's been downloaded to my downloads folder, and I'm just going to run it, and the only thing I need to make a connection to my Raspberry Pi is the IP address that the router has given it, and so that's over here, so I can just copy this or paste it and go back to my the program PuTTY, paste in the IP address, and then the type of connection we're going to make is an SSH, which stands for Secure Shell, and it just means that we're making an encrypted connection to another computer. And then I just click open. We get a message up about the fact that the Raspberry Pi may not be the computer that we want to connect to, but here we can just say yes, and then the window that's given is the login window to get into our Raspberry Pi. So the username at the moment that we've got set up is Pi, and the password is Raspberry. So I'm just going to type that in, and so what's great about this, and it's started, and what's great about this is that I'm actually logging on from my laptop to the Raspberry Pi, which means I don't need to have a monitor connected or a separate keyboard and mouse, and I'm just making use of the fact that I've got a router with an Ethernet cable, and I can dial in. And so to leave the Pi running and just to terminate the connection, all we need to do here is type exit, and that will close the PuTTY window, the terminal window, and but it will leave the Raspberry Pi running